It was a dark and stormy night when I, Dr. Emily Turner, arrived for my first night shift at the ominous St. Michael's Hospital. The grand building stood on the outskirts of town, shrouded in an air of mystery and gloom. Despite my apprehensions, I was determined to make a good impression and prove my worth as a young doctor. I was assigned to Ward 13, a floor known for its unsettling history. Numerous tales of strange occurrences and unexplained events had plagued this place for decades. Patients and staff alike whispered about ghostly apparitions and eerie sounds that echoed through the halls at night. However, I dismissed these rumors as mere superstitions, believing they were nothing more than exaggerations born out of fear and fatigue. As the night wore on, I tended to the patients, trying to suppress any lingering thoughts of the ward's unsettling past. However, a sense of unease crept upon me as I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was as if unseen eyes followed my every move. During my rounds, I encountered a patient, Mr. Thompson, who was being treated for an unknown ailment. His eyes were filled with fear, and he mumbled about shadows that whispered malevolently in the darkness. I reassured him that it was just his imagination, though my own doubts were growing. As the days turned into weeks, the hospital took on a peculiar atmosphere, especially during the night shift. Colleagues exchanged glances filled with unspoken dread, and rumors of inexplicable events spread like wildfire. Staff reported hearing unexplained footsteps, doors opening and closing on their own, and lights flickering in the hallways. One night, while conducting my rounds, I felt an icy breeze in the otherwise stuffy corridor. It sent shivers down my spine, and I could swear I heard faint whispers. Determined to dispel any irrational fears, I continued my rounds, trying to ignore the gnawing sense of unease that had taken root within me. In the following days, I sought solace in the hospital's archives, hoping to uncover the truth behind the mysterious happenings in Ward 13. There, I stumbled upon old newspaper clippings dating back to the early 1900s. The reports spoke of a fire that had engulfed the hospital wing, claiming the lives of. Among the deceased was a young nurse named Amelia, who was rumored to have tragically perished while trying to save the patients in her care. As I delved deeper, I discovered that the fire's cause had never been definitively determined, leaving a cloud of mystery hanging over the incident. Some believed it was a tragic accident, while others whispered about a malevolent force lurking in the shadows, seeking revenge for some unspeakable wrong. Despite my newfound knowledge, I tried to maintain a rational outlook, attributing the strange occurrences to the hospital's old infrastructure and overactive imaginations. But as the days passed, the incidents escalated. One night, I received an urgent call from the night nurse. She sounded frantic as she described seeing a pale figure wandering the ward. When I arrived, she pointed towards an empty bed, insisting that she had seen a ghostly apparition standing beside it. I tried to console her, but the terror in her eyes was undeniable. During another shift, I was summoned to room 137 by a patient who complained of a severe headache. As I entered, I was met with an unsettling sight. A young woman in a nurse's uniform, her face obscured by the dim light, stood beside the patient's bed. Before I could react, she vanished into thin air, leaving me shaken to the core. Determined to unravel the mystery, I sought the advice of the hospital's veteran staff. Nurse Johnson, who had worked at St. Michael's for over 3 decades, shared chilling stories about encounters with a ghostly Nurse Amelia. She spoke of hearing her humming in empty rooms and finding her old-fashioned nurse's cap in random places around the ward. As the nights wore on, the situation grew increasingly distressing. Patients in Ward 13 often spoke of feeling a malevolent presence, and some even begged to be moved to different floors. The hospital administration tried to keep the incidents hushed, fearing that public knowledge would tarnish the institution's reputation. Unable to stand idly by, I sought the help of a renowned paranormal investigator, Dr. Michael Collins. He had dealt with similar cases in the past and agreed to join me in the quest to unravel the truth behind the haunting of Ward 13. Together, we conducted rigorous investigations, setting up cameras and recording equipment throughout the ward. We reviewed hours of footage, capturing inexplicable shadows moving along the walls. Unexplained whispers and chilling colds. Collins hypothesized that the traumatic events of the past had imprinted themselves on the hospital's surroundings, manifesting as residual energy. However, as we dug deeper, the occurrences escalated to dangerous levels. Nurses reported being pushed by unseen hands, and patients claimed they were being taunted by spectral figures in the dead of night. Fear spread among the staff, and some even considered resigning from their posts. In a desperate attempt to find a solution, Dr. Collins consulted mediums and spiritual experts. They conducted seances and tried to communicate with the entities believed to haunt the hospital. During one intense session, we seemingly made contact with Nurse Amelia's spirit, who conveyed her agony and desire for justice. With this newfound knowledge, I delved deeper into the hospital archives and uncovered a startling revelation. It appeared that Nurse Amelia had been unjustly accused of negligence during the tragic fire incident. In truth, she had bravely attempted to save as many lives as she could, risking her own in the process. Haunted by guilt and a desire to clear her name, Amelia's spirit had refused to move on, tethered to the hospital she once served. Armed with this revelation, Dr. Collins and I worked tirelessly to seek closure for Amelia's restless spirit. We organized a ceremony to honor her bravery and sacrifice, hoping it would grant her the peace she had long deserved. As the ceremony unfolded, a profound stillness enveloped Ward 13. A soft light seemed to emanate from the very walls of the hospital, and a sense of tranquility filled the air. We felt a gentle presence, as if Amelia herself was there, finally finding solace and release from her earthly burden. From that night on, the paranormal activities in Ward 13 subsided, and the unsettling aura that had plagued the hospital seemed to fade away. The whispers in the shadows ceased, and the malevolent presence that had terrorized patients and staff retreated into obscurity. As time went on, the stories of the haunted ward became mere legends, passing into the realm of local folklore. However, Dr. Collins and I knew the truth. The tale of Nurse Amelia and the haunted Ward 13 was real, and it would forever be etched in our memories. The hospital remained a place of healing and care, though a newfound respect for its history and those who had passed through its halls lingered among its occupants. In the remote countryside, Hills Sanatorium stood as an imposing relic from a bygone era. Once a beacon of hope for those suffering from tuberculosis, it eventually fell into disuse and became a forsaken place, obscured by its tattoo. In the early 1900s, tuberculosis spread like wildfire, claiming countless lives. Hills Sanatorium opened its doors to provide care for the afflicted, but as the death toll rose, the hospital became a place of despair. Overcrowded and understaffed, it was plagued by tales of mistreatment, neglect, and patients mysteriously disappearing without a trace. Decades after the sanatorium's closure, rumors emerged about the hospital being haunted by the restless souls of those who had perished there. Local legends spoke of ghostly apparitions wandering the abandoned hallways, their hollow moans echoing through the desolate rooms. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a seasoned paranormal investigator, had a fascination with haunted places and unexplained phenomena. However, she remained skeptical about the existence of ghosts and spirits, viewing her work as a quest for rational explanations. One day, Dr. Mitchell received an anonymous email detailing the unsettling history of Hills Sanatorium. Intrigued by the mysterious message, she decided to investigate further. Despite her skepticism, she couldn't help but feel a certain trepidation as she arrived at the derelict building. Armed with her trusty equipment, Dr. Mitchell ventured inside the decaying walls. As she explored the dimly lit hallways, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Strange shadows flickered at the edge of her vision, and eerie drafts seemed to follow her every step. Your turn set up her recording equipment and began her investigation. Electronic voice phenomena, ATEF sessions revealed chilling whispers and ghostly moans, suggesting the presence of unseen entities. Despite her scientific approach, she couldn't explain some of the eerie occurrences she encountered. During one session, she felt an icy hand brush against her shoulder, causing her to jump in surprise. She captured the moment on camera, but upon reviewing the footage, she found no logical explanation for the touch. As the days went by, the paranormal activity escalated. Doors slammed shut on their own, objects moved inexplicably, and the oppressive atmosphere seemed to thicken. Dr. Mitchell's skepticism began to waver as she questioned her understanding of the world around her, driven by a desire to uncover the truth. Dr. Mitchell delved into the history of Hills Sanatorium. She unearthed records of patients who had died under mysterious circumstances or vanished without a trace. As she connected the dots, a pattern emerged. One that pointed to a darker truth behind the hospital's haunting. Among the patients was a young woman named Emily who had been falsely committed by her jealous husband. She had vanished from the hospital under suspicious circumstances, and her fate remained a mystery. Dr. Mitchell became determined to find out what had happened to Emily, hoping that it might shed light on the inexplicable events haunting Hills Sanatorium. Her research led her to the family of Emily's husband, who reluctantly shared a hidden journal belonging to him. In its pages, he detailed his jealousy and obsession with Emily, admitting to imprisoning her in Hills Sanatorium to keep her away from the world. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Dr. Mitchell felt a deep sense of responsibility to give Emily's spirit the peace it deserved. Together with a team of paranormal experts, she conducted a series of rituals and seances to communicate with the lost souls haunting the hospital. During one intense session, Emily's voice seemed to emerge from the depths of the void. She spoke of her suffering, the injustice of her imprisonment, and the pain of being forgotten by the world. Dr. Mitchell reassured her that she would not be forgotten, promising to bring her story to light. In the following days, the atmosphere at Hills Sanatorium began to change. The oppressive aura that had filled the air seemed to lift, and a sense of tranquility permeated the halls. It was as if the lost souls had finally found solace in having their stories acknowledged. Dr. Mitchell published her findings, shedding light on the dark history of Hills Sanatorium. The public's response was overwhelming, and the local community rallied to restore the hospital as a memorial to those who had suffered and perished there. As the building underwent restoration, the paranormal activity gradually subsided, and the legends of hauntings started to fade away. In place of fear and despair, a sense of closure and redemption enveloped the hospital's surroundings. Emily's story inspired a local author to write a book about her life and the hospital's tragic past. The book became a bestseller, spreading awareness about the importance of acknowledging historical injustices and giving a voice to the forgotten. Over time, Hills Sanatorium transformed from a place of darkness into a sanctuary of remembrance and healing. Dr. Mitchell's work had not only uncovered the haunting of the hospital, but had also sparked a movement to honor the memories of those who had suffered within its walls. Spirits of the past, once tormented and restless, now seemed to rest in peace, grateful for the recognition and compassion shown to them. Hills Sanatorium became a beacon of hope, reminding the world that even in the darkest places, redemption and healing were possible. And for Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the haunted hospital had taught her that some mysteries were beyond scientific explanation, making her a believer in the power of both the seen and the unseen. Ravenswood Asylum, an imposing Gothic structure, stood on the outskirts of a small town, shrouded in a dark history. Once a state-of-the-art psychiatric hospital in the early 20th century, it had been abandoned for decades, left to crumble and decay. The hospital's ominous reputation kept locals away, and stories of cruelty and neglect were whispered through generations. Patients were said to have endured unimaginable horrors at the hands of the hospital staff, and those who entered Ravenswood Asylum never seemed to leave. Dr. Alex Evans, a seasoned paranormal investigator, had always been intrigued by the asylum's haunted past. Armed with a fascination for the unexplained and a thirst for knowledge, he decided to explore the decaying halls and investigate the mysteries surrounding Ravenswood. As Dr. Evans entered the asylum's crumbling entrance, he felt a chill in the air that seemed to penetrate his very bones. The atmosphere was heavy, as if the weight of the asylum's dark history hung heavily in the air. Using his specialized equipment, Dr. Evans began his investigation. Electronic voice phenomena (EVP) sessions revealed chilling whispers and anguished cries, indicating the presence of lingering spirits. Dr. Evans was determined to unravel the truth behind the haunting, skeptical though he remained. During one EVP session, Dr. Evans felt a sudden, overwhelming sense of sadness, as if he was connected to the suffering that had occurred within the asylum's walls. It was a feeling he could not shake, and he wondered if the tales of Ravenswood were more than mere stories. As the days passed, Dr. Evans delved deeper into Ravenswood Asylum's history. He found records detailing the treatment of patients and the controversial psychiatric practices that were once considered progressive. Among the asylum's patients was a young woman named Lily, who had been committed by her wealthy family for supposed hysteria. In her own diary, she chronicled her despair, detailing the horror of being trapped within the asylum's walls. Dr. Evans couldn't ignore the overwhelming evidence of past abuses and mistreatment. The asylum's history painted a grim picture of the suffering endured by its patients, and he couldn't help but feel that the anguish of the past was somehow connected to the paranormal activity he was experiencing. During one particularly intense investigation, Dr. Evans encountered an entity that seemed to exude malevolence. It appeared as a shadowy figure lurking in the corners of the decrepit rooms, its presence unnerving and unsettling. This malevolent entity seemed to feed off fear and despair, making its presence known through sudden drops in temperature, inexplicable noises, and objects moving on their own. Dr. Evans couldn't deny that he felt an overwhelming sense of dread in its presence, as if it wanted to drive him away from the asylum. As he continued his research, he stumbled upon the story of a former asylum employee named Samuel. Samuel was a sadistic nurse known for his cruelty towards the patients, and rumors suggested that he had practiced dark rituals within the asylum's walls. Dr. Evans couldn't shake the feeling that Samuel's malevolent spirit had somehow lingered in Ravenswood, seeking to perpetuate the suffering he had once inflicted. Determined to put an end to the malevolent entity's reign, Dr. Evans enlisted the help of a renowned psychic medium, Sarah. Together, they conducted a series of seances and cleansing rituals to communicate with the lingering spirits and bring peace to the tormented souls. During one emotional seance, Sarah connected with Lily's spirit, who expressed her anguish and longing for freedom. Dr. Evans vowed to find a way to release Lily's spirit from the asylum's clutches, determined to bring her the peace she had been denied in life. As they continued their efforts, they also made contact with a malevolent entity, Samuel. The darkness he exuded was palpable, and Sarah sensed his desire to torment the living. Through her connection with the spirit world, she tried to understand his motivations, hoping to find a way to appease his tormented soul. Through their combined efforts, Dr. Evans and Sarah uncovered a startling revelation. Samuel had been driven by a thirst for power and control, using the asylum's vulnerable patients as pawns for his twisted experiments. In his desperation to maintain control, he had made a pact with dark forces, sealing his fate and binding him to Ravenswood Asylum for eternity. With newfound knowledge, Dr. Evans and Sarah devised a plan to release Lily's spirit and confront Samuel's malevolent entity. They conducted a powerful cleansing ritual, using Lily's diary as a conduit to guide her to the light. As the ritual unfolded, a sense of serenity washed over the asylum's desolate halls. Lily's spirit appeared before them, her once tormented expression now filled with peace and gratitude. Dr. Evans felt a profound connection to her, as if he had played a part in setting her spirit free. With Lily's spirit finally at rest, they turned their attention to Samuel. Confronting the malevolent entity, they implored him to let go of his anger and find peace. The air seemed to crackle with tension as they challenged the darkness that had consumed him. In a final act of redemption, Samuel's spirit hesitated before vanishing into the ether, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of release. It was as if the asylum itself had finally exhaled, its dark past unraveled, and after the intense ordeal, Ravenswood Asylum underwent a transformation. Local authorities agreed to preserve the historic building, turning it into a museum and memorial for the patients who had suffered there. Dr. Evans' investigation and Sarah's intervention had shed light on the asylum's haunting past, bringing a sense of closure to the spirits that had lingered for decades. Ravenswood became a place of remembrance and healing, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the importance of confronting the darkness that lurks within the shadows.